Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am Zach, one of the hosts, and the other host, as always, is Chris. What's up, buddy?
Hello, everybody. Hello, my dear friend Zach. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone around the world and solar system and Antarctica watching us and listening to us on our excellent podcast as we talk
Yes.
about, yeah, all science fiction and pop culture. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is. And we are back again. It seems like we just did this yesterday, but
Yeah.
we are at the time of time of the recording, anyways. But yeah, we're back because not only did they decide to drop the season three premiere of Strange New
Mhm.
Worlds, they decided to drop the first two episodes of
Two
Strange New Worlds.
episodes. That's
So
right.
that gave us double the fun, double the pleasure, double mint gum.
Yeah,
Something like
that's
that,
right.
right?
It
Yeah.
absolutely did. And
Yeah.
this second one was like, they had some, what I like about Strange New Worlds, like we both like, is it definitely connects to Toss. You know,
Yes.
they do things to connect it to the original series, which is great.
I mean, if they didn't, wouldn't that be kind of a foul on their part, right? To not have
Yeah,
some level of tie-in and references. It'd be like they were making a series that took place in the TOS era, but we're just pretty much stiff-arming TOS and be like, yeah, we don't need you.
yeah, true. Very, very, very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, this is Star Trek Strange New World season three, episode two, called Wedding Bell Blues, which gives some of it away, but maybe not in the way that people may or may not think of. Um, this is continuing, Chris, to follow the trend, I think, that Strange New Worlds has done the first two seasons, where we have gotten really, really dramatic, intense episodes followed by something a little more lighthearted, something a little bit with a change in tone and a change in pace.
yeah.
And have you enjoyed that kind of back and forth where you get something really deep and intense and then have something a little bit more lighthearted?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely have enjoyed it. And I think it's necessary just to give range, like because Star Trek is totally about range. So having very, very serious moments and then giving range to like very light-hearted and enjoyable episodes and shenanigans. There's
Yeah.
a lot of shenanigans in this one.
There,
Is
there,
great to have. Yeah.
uh, there's a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this before too when we did our discussion through Deep Space Nine and the overarching view of it through the seasons and everything. And I noticed that in DS9 they did something very similar where you'd have these intense episodes and then you'd have more lighthearted episodes like the
Mhm.
Ferengi episodes, right? In fact, I
Yeah.
think if you go back and look, anytime or almost every time, maybe not every time, but almost every time that there was like a lighthearted, whimsical Ferengi episode, it was typically after a more intense or dramatic type of episode that they would have in that particular season.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of credit we can give to the creators because last season we had a musical. So
Yeah.
they're going a lot of different directions to kind of highlight like the range of the show, the range of their creativity, the range of the actors and what they can do. And I think that's great.
I think you really bring up a good point there when you say specifically the range of the actors.
Yeah.
Because I think with Star Trek in general, you tend to think of this idea that Star Trek episodes have to look and feel a certain way. And I think with Strange New Worlds, what they've done is they've said, well, we have a lot of that, but we also have some different episodes, some fun ones,
Mhm.
some ones like you mentioned that kind of test and stretch the range of the creativity and the characters and the actors. And I think it's fun, especially
Yeah.
because I remember we had several discussions on the phone prior to a couple of the season two episodes of Strange New Worlds, where like the musical being one of them, and then the crossover with Lower Decks, and we're like, I
Yeah.
don't know how this is gonna be. But then it turned out I think we both really enjoyed them.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did. Um, and it made me think a little bit about Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. I feel, and I might be misplaced, and apologies if I am, and if I'm not like, my knowledge on Discovery is very shallow, but I always felt Discovery was just like this very heavy, heavy, heavy tone all the way throughout. and that kind of weighs on you after a while. You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
this is getting me down after a while. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, Discovery, from what I've watched, this is about 3.5 seasons worth. There are some lighthearted moments, but
mm,
I definitely would
okay,
agree with you 100% that the overarching tone of Discovery is very, very dramatic. It's very heavy. I don't feel like there is nearly as much of the whimsical kind of lighthearted stuff that we see in the other Star Trek series. So I definitely do think you're spot on.
yeah, excellent, excellent, yeah. Now,
Um,
if you go Battlestar Galactica, the 2004 Battlestar Galactica, you know what you're
yeah.
getting into. That is a
Yeah.
very serious, like that is a very, very, very serious and thoughtful series. So,
Yeah. I mean, there's
yeah,
some funny scenes, but I wouldn't say there's any really
yeah,
whimsical episodes, right? I
yeah,
mean, it's
no,
it's just intense all the way through. And that's a
intense.
very
Yep.
serialized show, right? I mean, it
Hmm.
is every episode is building off the next, off the next, off the next, whereas a majority of Star Trek is not like that.
Yeah,
A lot of the new Trek is DS9 broke the mold with doing that, but in general, most of it is the new Trek stuff.
yeah.
I mean, I would argue while Voyager had basically new episodes every week, it was building off of a continual story arc of this idea of getting home. So
Hmm.
Voyager also kind of continued that trend. And Enterprise did in season three, right? With the whole
Yep,
Xindi arc. I mean, the whole season was pretty much a continual running story.
it sure did.
Yeah. But all right, Chris. Well, we are here for Strange New World, season three, episode two, entitled Wedding Bell Blues, as I mentioned before. And this was written by Kristen Beyer and David Reed and directed by Jordan Canning, who she was on with Seventh Rule. Trying to reach out to her and see if
Oh
we can have
yeah.
her on as well. She's directed a few different Strange New Worlds episodes, and I loved her comments when they were making this episode in particular, and some of her thoughts. But this is in the realm of the lighthearted. This
Hmm?
follows, and I want to get your thoughts on this too as well, because I truly believe that we needed an episode like this to follow the Hegemony Part I and II, the season two finale and season three premiere, because of how heavy and intense that two-parter was. I really felt like we needed something like this to kind of go, okay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely true. You do need like this. My other
Yeah.
thoughts are like, why we gotta mess with Spock, man? Why we gotta
Yeah.
why we have to do that to Spock? Doesn't he go
Yeah.
that man goes through enough. That
He,
Vulcan, half man, half Vulcan goes through so much.
yeah, he does. Now, that being said, this episode, the situation in this episode probably would not have presented itself had he not decided to call off things with his fiancee to bring. And had he gone forward with that, we wouldn't be in this situation. But here we are.
Here we
And
are.
some of this is a result of Spock's decisions and T'Pring's decision. And a lot of this has to do with Nurse Chapel and what she does. And we're going to get into that. And I have some very, very strong thoughts and opinions. And I think you do too. Um, we also have, and we'll talk about this towards the end, but we also have a very surprise cameo in the voice form at the end of this. And we also have what I think is the creators addressing something that has been a long-standing question and debate about an original series character
Hmm.
and what that original series character actually is. And we're going to get into all of that and more right here on the Random Redshirt podcast. So be sure to stick with us all the way through to the end. That being said, again, welcome. Be sure to go on to Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and check us out there. Follow us on those social media platforms. If you're listening to us on the audio side, you can find this episode and others also on our YouTube channel. And if you're on our YouTube channel, hi, welcome. Nice to see you. Hope you're enjoying this. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe button for more amazing content as we continue to produce such great episodes like this one. All right, Chris, let's jump into this Wedding Bell Blues.
I really liked the beginning of it. I mean, I typically always like the beginning, but this beginning was you immediately see it as light, right? So you have the opening from essentially Spock's personal log talking about the repairs of the Enterprise. It's been 3 months. He's really excited that Christine is coming back, and going to celebrate Centennial Day, and then all the crew's going to be there to celebrate. And then you open up with seeing Spock dancing with Leon, and Leon, essentially teaching him. You get the feeling that she's been teaching him how to dance over these last couple of months. So that was
Yeah.
cute, and I really like the conversation that they got back and forth.
Anytime we start out with Lon in
Yeah,
an episode, I'm a happy man.
yeah, happy, yeah.
And in real life, Christina Chong is a very accomplished dancer. So
Mhm.
this probably wasn't a stretch at all for her to be doing dancing in this particular episode.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. And you can uh it sets the background that Spock has been preparing or thinking a lot about these last 3 months on what to do when Christine arrives and making some sort of grand romantic dress gesture. Um, and I remember that phrase, grand romantic gesture. I think Christine says, "Don't do a grand romantic gesture" at the end of Hegemony, like part two.
Yeah.
But Spock's been thinking about that. He wants to do that for Christine.
You know, I can remember when we were talking about Hegemony Part II, which was just not that long ago. Um, and
Hmm.
yes, you're right. She says like they're literally right in the middle of working on Battelle, Captain
Yeah.
Battelle, and trying to find a cure and trying to get these Gorn babies out of her and
Mm.
keep her alive and save her life. And she says that, don't do some, like I said, grand romantic gesture or whatever, like waiting for me. And I thought to myself as I was watching that episode for the first time, I thought, yeah, okay, Spock's going to. I mean, you
Yeah.
mentioned it when we talked on the phone yesterday. You said, or no, maybe it was we were texting earlier today. He said, you're like, Spock literally left his fiance. He gave up that opportunity to marry T'Pring, who, by all accounts, is probably would have been a great Vulcan wife. I
Yeah.
mean, she put. Okay, I'm going to say in Chapel's, well, not even in Chapel's defense, because it's not. I can't defend her in this episode, really, Chris. I can't. But what I will say is, uh, T'Pring put up with a from a Vulcan perspective, right?
Yeah.
Let's quote this as a Vulcan perspective. From a Vulcan perspective, T'Pring puts up with a lot from Spock, waiting for him. They get engaged, and then they're supposed to spend time together, and he's off doing things, and she's waiting, and she's always waiting for him.
Yeah.
And then eventually, it just becomes enough,
Yeah.
and he breaks free from her and to pursue Chapel. Honestly, I think the person who lost in all of this amongst the three of them is T'Pring. Really, I mean, she really put up with a lot as a Vulcan female for the opportunity to marry Spock, and he just kind of poo-pooed it, sort of. I don't know. Maybe that's just my own personal opinion, but that's just kind of how it feels looking back and knowing what we know now here in episode two.
Yeah, she did put up with a lot of like yeah, of Spock being absent because he was on the starship going. And
Yeah,
that was his, that's what he wanted to do, which was wonderful, but not what T'Pring wanted for herself. Right. So
right.
there's a lot of space there that that T'Pring lost out on.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. So, yeah, I do feel bad for T'Pring in this. I mean, obviously, I feel bad for Spock, and we're going to get into all that and more. But this was a very interesting episode in the sense that, I mean, this isn't the first time Star Trek's done a quote unquote romantic type of episode where it's focused around a relationship or people coming together or
Yeah.
something like that. But this is like a almost like a love triangle. Not actually
Yeah.
not it almost it's not let me untie my tongue here. It's not almost, it is a love triangle.
It is a love triangle. Just like there was a love triangle with T'Pring and Spock and Christine, now Spock has been kind of rearranged in that love triangle, and now it's Spock, Christine, and Dr. Korby. But
Yeah.
Christine is kind of, I mean, Spock is just kind of left. So it's not, she's just kind of out. He's out, I'd
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
100%.
Right.
Now we do meet a new character in this episode as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
Two
technically two new characters,
two new
but
characters. Yeah.
one, I believe, even though it's not out fully said the name, I believe the one character is it's assumed that he is the character we also see in Toss.
Yeah. The actor is Rhys Darby, I
Yeah, Reese
believe.
Darby. Yep.
I don't remember them saying his name other than Wedding Planner and
Correct. They don't. I don't believe they do either.
Bartender.
That's why I think there's a thought that he is the younger version of the character we meet in Toss in the TOS episode. Why is it blanking my mind
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now?
Squire
Squire Gothis.
Gothos.
Yeah, where we meet the character Traylon. So the thought has been for a long time about what Traylon is, and we'll get into that towards the end. But I think everybody believes that this is a younger version of Traylon.
That totally makes sense. Dresses like him too. And I really like Trillian.
Yeah.
Um,
Was Reese Darby not fantastic in this role, by the
he was
way?
great. He was
Oh my
perfect.
gosh, she was
I
so
let
good.
I loved him. He seemed so I want to say this like because when he's the bartender and then Spock goes up, and he looks at Spock and he goes, "Well, I can make you something better." And he makes Spock something better and he's like, "Well, what do you wish for?" I felt like uh the wedding planner, the bartender, he was so earnest and genuine in wanting to make Spock and the wedding like successful, make Spock happy and the wedding successful. He's like he was so good natured, just
Mm.
like when the hors d'oeuvres were didn't taste good for Spock, then he changed that. He's like, okay, what about this? Make it better. And then Christine really liked it. Or Christine's flowers, when
Her
they were
mother's
brought to
flowers,
the
right?
mother's
Yeah.
flowers when they were brought to the rehearsal and he saw that the flowers had wilted and then he's like, oh, then he makes the flowers like nice again. And I thought that was so endearing that he would was just really invested in trying to make Spock happy, make this
Yeah.
wedding successful, and it was pretty cute,
Yeah.
actually.
I agree. Now,
Yeah.
do you think, I don't know if you had this thought. Maybe I'm way off my rocker when I think this, but not throughout the whole episode, but through the early part of the episode when we first meet the wedding planner
Hmm.
character, right? Who initially is a bartender. And we know that he presents himself in a different image than what he actually looks like because I believe as a bartender, he's a Vulcan because Spock says something like, "Oh, I didn't know he had a Vulcan bartender on board," or something along those lines, right? So, and later on, he's an Andorian wedding planner.
Yeah.
So he takes on many forms to the other characters, but we always see him as his normal self, right?
Yeah.
But so early on, when he first comes on the episode in the bar, and even as the wedding planner initially, then later on, I don't feel this way, but he almost kind of felt like a Rumpelstiltskin character a little bit,
Hmm.
right? This
Yeah.
idea of someone who's trying to grant the wishes of the people. Now, granted, he's not asking for their firstborn child, or he's not
Yeah.
spinning hay into gold, or doing any of the Rumpelstiltskin type fairy tale stuff. But he kind of felt a little bit like a Rumpelstiltskin character to me.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. Uh he's mischievous in here. I mean, this one he's genuinely trying to help Spock, but he's got a little bit of that mischievous nature. I
Yeah,
love like when he miniaturizes Spock and puts Spock in like a little container,
yeah, that
like
was
what
funny.
yeah, what's going to happen if, we all don't want to go through this with this wedding and he's pretty much like, well, everyone's going to die. I'm going to put you in this this miniaturize you. I'm going to turn Dr. Korby into like a dog.
Yeah,
It's
that
great.
was funny. And a bulldog of all things. I'm like, that's an
Bulldog.
interesting choice. Yeah, they could have
Yeah.
made him any dog, but they made him a bulldog.
Yeah, and it's his way of having fun. This is all fun for him. Right? He's
Yeah,
playing.
it's a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's evident the more as the episode goes on, the more and more we see of this wedding planner character that I think the majority of us would believe is a younger Traylon, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
The more we realize that it is a game to him, the more we
Hmm.
realize he's having fun, the more we realize that to him, it's just for fun. And the more we also realize the amount of powers that he has, the ability to project himself in whatever shape or form he desires to those around him, to be able to bring things back to life, to be able to change things on a fly. All these things begin to paint the picture for us that, okay, this guy's more than just meets the eye.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like him.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, okay. So Dr. Corby, what do you think of him? Because my initial impression of him early in the episode makes me kind of feel like he is a slime ball. He's sleazy. He had to have known at some point that there was somebody back waiting for Chapel because it had to have come up. Maybe, maybe not during their 3 months together. And then my feelings for him do kind of evolve and change over the course of the episode,
Yeah.
given everything that happens.
Yeah. I say I felt maybe similarly to you. So I thought I just kind of felt that he was an opportunist with Chapel's like circumstance and situation, and maybe not that he was slimy, but just like I just never warmed up to him or liked him. He would, and I know he was wanting Christine to be safe, of course, uh, and not malicious, but he was just like, oh, I I just couldn't get up to liking him because he was like that other person. Like, well, Christine went to do this, um, the fellowship, right? Fellowship with him,
Yep.
and it's like, what? This turns into that, and like you're gonna go apply for this fellowship, and he's supposed to be like this kind of mentor figure in this fellowship, and that's what happens. You get a fellow to come in, someone that's just wanting to grow professionally, and then it turns into
Yep.
like a romantic thing. So, um,
And a
ugh,
very fast relationship. I mean,
ah,
3 months, not that that's enough time. You get to know somebody and so forth, but like really, like she's that infatuated with him after just 3 months after, I mean, knowing full well how Spock is and who he is and the fact he's a Vulcan and all these things and the fact that she knows the wedding was called off and the engagement was called off with the Pring and knowing his feelings for her and then she does it and then oh by the way she brings it like the whole scene on the transporter when she shows up with Dr. Corby after Lon tells him that she's bringing somebody with her and it's him and she's like yeah I brought my date says it
yeah,
right in front of Spock like she couldn't have just kept left that piece out. I mean, how awkward that scene in the transporter room, dude. I don't know how you felt, but I felt awkward, and I wasn't even there. Like I felt awkward for Spock. Like I just sat there going, "Oh Lord, this is super awkward," and I felt so bad for Spock because he's standing there going, "Oh, you brought a date?" Like he didn't know what to do.
yeah.
How did you feel in that scene? Because I was horrified, and I felt so awkward
You feel
for Spock.
cringy. Yeah,
Yeah,
you definitely feel
yeah, there it is,
cringy. Like,
cringy. Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay. You just was. I'm sure Spock wishes he could just like disappear, like
yeah. Like go
in
back
that
to the
moment.
miniature size that he's
Hmm.
made into.
Yeah. And now Leon is such a good friend, such a very good friend for Spock in this because I mean, she kind of in a way like predicted it, right? She
Yeah,
saw that Christine had added someone else um, to her transporter roster, a guest, and so I mean, she was there for security purposes too. But I think she kind of predicted it. She's like, "Oh,
yep.
I don't see this going well," and she was there. So she did a great job like supporting him.
She really did. And not to jump around too much, but
Mm,
at the end of the episode, when they're all starting to dance and everything, and I think Spock and her dance together because she says something to the effect of like, "Oh, it'd be," or he says like, it'd be a shame to waste the time that he spent learning how to dance or whatever with,
Yeah.
and so they start dancing. And is it wrong of me as the episode is ending and him and Lon are dancing together? Is it wrong of me to think to myself, back off, Spock, this ain't the girl for you, like stay away, stay away.
It's Zach,
Uh,
I was thinking about you when that when they
were
were
you?
dancing. Yeah. I was like, I don't think Zach's gonna like I think he's gonna think that they should not be dancing together right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
yes, you are 100%
Yeah.
right on that. You're 100% right on what my feelings were in that, because that's exactly what my feelings and thoughts were. And you're 100% right in the fact that Lon is also an incredibly great friend to Spock throughout
Yeah.
this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a testament to the writing and the producing, obviously the acting as well. But what I like about it is it's showing another side of Lon. We're so used to seeing her very like closed, cold, security officer, warrior, battle tested, all of these things. We don't really get to see a lot of this side of her. And the
Yeah.
fact that we do get to see this side of her in this episode, I think is really great for the growing and maturation of the character.
Yeah. And in a way, like, because Leon is like how she is, she's very disciplined, does not want to give in to fear, wants to control. She feels like very controlled
Yeah.
in terms of her emotions. It's kind of like she and Spock are siblings in a way, right? You
Yeah.
think about that, right? Because they go through those same kind of struggles, So yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the idea of almost kind of like siblings, and this has just popped into my
Mhm.
mind because the first time that we see Ethan Peck as Spock, it's in Discovery.
Yeah.
Albeit he looks much different. He's got a beard, he's got longer hair and stuff. And his basically adopted sister is Michael Burnham.
Yeah.
And so now that you mention it, I'm thinking about him and La'an's interaction throughout this episode, and it kind of reminds me the similar role to which Burnham played with him in the sense of that kind of brother sister
Hmm.
role. And it's almost kind of like La'an has taken on a little bit of that role in this particular episode. So that's a great point you make.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I never thought about it like that.
yeah, Burnham and Leon are well, from what I had seen of Burnham's always been like a very, very, very serious like person.
Yeah.
So I could see like Spock connecting with Leon and vice versa, Leon connecting with Spock very much, Leon lost her brother. Spock Spock's sister is
Way in the future.
way somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah, I like the role that Lon's taken on in this particular episode, and she's there for Spock, and he mentions the friendship that she has for him, and it's great. It's great that she's there in his time of need because who else? The difference between her and Burnham is she's not trying to commit mutiny on board the friggin' bridge in the pilot
exactly,
episode.
man.
Right? It's not, this is not in the cards for her. Yeah, no, definitely not in the cards for her. But this is not, we're not going to sit here and bash on Discovery. This is about Strange New Worlds. But I do like the comparison of the role that Lon's playing compared to Burnham in the time
Yeah.
that we do see her around Spock in the show, which isn't a whole lot, but
Yeah, that's right.
we do
Yeah.
get to see that. So, okay. So we had this really awkward scene in the transporter room. There's another awkward scene. When was it? Was it when does she go to his quarters? They have another. Yeah, it's when she comes to his quarters to give the book back that he gave her as a gift. It's some really old manuscript or something that
Hmm.
he found for her and gave it. And the Doctor Korby seems to he's like, oh, that's great, whatever. And he's like, that's not for you, dude. That's for her. I got it to her as a gift.
Yeah.
And that scene when she comes into his quarters and gives him the book, and then they have a conversation and she walks out. I mean, my heart broke for Spock in that moment. And it was so awkward. It was literally, okay, can I tell a very short personal story? I'll
Yeah,
keep it,
please.
I
Yeah.
won't make it too personal, but honestly, I watched that scene and it reminded me of a scene when I was in college, the beginning of my sophomore year, and the girl that I had been dating my freshman year, who I thought I was going to marry. I had a ring made up and everything, and she broke up with me over the summer on the phone. And
Mm.
then she comes to my dorm. beginning of this year and brings me back a sweatshirt. And it was very awkward. And then she leaves. And that was kind of
Mm.
the last thing. That scene, dude, reminded me of that moment of my life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know what it felt like to be on Spock's end. So that was a rough scene for me, not because it brought up emotions from that when I was younger, because I don't care about that anymore, but it reminded me. And so my heart broke for Spock knowing what he's going through in that particular instant.
Yeah, and I'm sure so many of us can identify with like how Spock felt at that moment, and the with Christine's like explanation at the moment, like when she's there, she wants to return the book, and
Yeah.
she's talking a little bit, trying to explain it, although she says she can't really explain it. And I think her words to Spock is something like, "It just is," or "It just is now. This is just is." Right? And she, I think that was the perfect piece of like dialogue actually, because that's it's such a painful thing to say, right? Painful thing to receive. It just is. And then from Spock's perspective, like he had been waiting there, right? So he'd been 3 months like thinking about her, and thinking about what to do as a gesture. And then she's doing her fellowship and comes back and just tells him, it just is. And so how painful it is, but I think that was uh the right kind of the right dialogue to put that pain like in into Spock, right?
Yeah, I hated it. Not I
Yeah,
mean you're
yeah,
right
yeah,
you're right. You're right when you
yeah,
say it was the quote unquote perfect dialogue to put pain into Spock. It was so cold-hearted of
yeah.
Chapel. It was so like, oh, I wanted to throw the remote at my
Mhm,
TV when she said that because I'm thinking to myself, how dare you, Chapel? Like it's all Chris, it's almost like they switched roles. Like she became the emotionless Vulcan and he became the emotional human
mhm,
in that moment where she just cut it off clean, cold turkey, right? She just was like, it is what it is, or whatever the line, whatever you said the line was.
yeah.
It is what it has to be, or something. No, no, Christine, that's not what has to be. You chose this because you fell in love with this dude in 3 months who you were studying under for this thing, knowing full well that Spock was going to be their way. It's not like Spock was going to go pick up chicks and pick up other ladies or something like that while he's, you know what I mean? Like she freaking knows he's going to be waiting for her. She wouldn't have said, "Oh, don't go do something romantic like wait for me," because she knows he's going to do that. And he does it anyways. And then she comes back. She's like, "Well, it is what it's got to be," or whatever the line was. And I'm just like, no, Chapel, it doesn't need to be like this. You've just come in and completely like just stabbed him in the heart.
Mhm.
I mean, Chris, this moment pissed me off.
Yeah,
Pissed me off. I don't know.
yeah.
And I love Chapel. I think she's been a great character. This episode, I am not a fan at all. I'm really, really not. And I know she's your favorite character. And I want to know, Chris, because she's your favorite character, did this episode do anything to you in regards to the character? Did it change anything in your mind about her? Or is it just what it has to be? I don't know. I this episode really chaps my hide, and this scene we're talking about, I'm just like, there's so many other ways that she could have approached this than what she did.
Yeah, I think I was really disappointed. This is for drama and for like character pain, and for people like watching, it's like, yes, this is like um you know this is good in terms of like having drama like in the episode.
Oh yeah.
Right, but we had gone through um they had gone through Spock and Christine had gone through so much in the previous season. both emotionally and like physically, and going through some like very, very traumatic situations. And I just think back on Hegemony, like part one or two, Hegemony part one, I think. Spock is so worried about Christine, and he goes to the ship that has been destroyed, and as Spock kind of, you know, he's the reason why she's able to get off the ship alive because he goes there. And I thought that was, that was wonderful. Not that Christine was helpless. She was pretty active in her own rescue at the same time.
Right.
Um, but I just feel like, it almost feels like too real life. When this happens, right? And then you've got someone, um and there's a relationship, or there's part of a relationship, and there's a break for a little bit, and one person is like committed to the relationship and feels bad, and then the other, like, one comes back and feels like, oh, they didn't take it as seriously as they could, or they were emotionally in a vulnerable place, which I think Christine probably was. She was just coming off of that that intense traumatic experience with the Gorn, and so
Hmm.
very, very vulnerable. Um, and then there was just a circumstance where you've got this other person like Korby at the same time, um, and then that happens. Now,
Yeah.
Korby, I think Korby is a character. I might be getting it off wrong, but I think he's a character in the original series.
Is he?
Yeah, I think Corby, well, yeah, look it up, see if you find it. I think Dr. Dr. Roger Corby is a character in the original series. And
He
he's,
is.
yeah, and there's a relation there's actually like a legacy um of a relationship between Christine Chapel and Dr. Roger Corby. And when Kirk and Spock visit this planet, I think Dr. Corby has made a bunch of robotic uh artificial intelligence robotic humanoids.
Oh yeah, is
Yeah.
this the episode? Oh yeah, he's from the episode What Little Girls Are Made Of.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's right. He's not a new character then. I
Yeah.
was thinking he was. I totally forgot about him. He's a Federation archaeologist, renowned as a pasteur of archaeological medicine,
Yeah.
and whose translations of medical records found in Orion ruins reformed immunological techniques, which became required reading at Starfleet Academy.
That's
He
right.
also began a relationship with one of his students, Christine Chappell, who later became his fiancée.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess that makes sense because we know Spock and Chapel don't end up together, right, in
Yeah.
TOS. So we know it's not going to be a thing, even though I think a lot of us are rooting for it.
Yeah. So you're
Um,
right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so
But
there's legacy
yeah.
there in
I,
and
I
kind of,
totally forgot about
yeah.
that, Chris. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
forgot about that. He's not a new character then.
Yeah. So there's legacy there in that connection. And I okay, which makes sense because you're right. Yeah, Spock and Christine don't end up together, but it just feels so like real, and then you just feel like so like disappointed. You're like going, "Oh, okay. That happened." And just Christine to come back, and she's like, "Yeah, this is what happened, and it is, or it just is." And uh that's that was hard to watch. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
just, you feel really disappointed, and you connect to Spock and go like, "Oh, that was really sad, Spock." And like, what's going to happen to Spock? Because you see behind Spock is very stoic, but you kind of see behind his eyes like how he's being like transformed. And he'll be transformed, like, I'm sure after this episode, like even more, right? Um so
Yeah.
yeah, I just feel, you know, just it takes the notch down a little bit, like on how good you may feel about a character.
Yeah. Is
So
that how do you feel like it took you down a notch on how you feel about Chapel? Did it
yeah.
change anything in your mind about how you feel about her, or is that unaffected given what I now realize is the history in TOS with this character?
I think I was wishing that the history might have been like a little bit different because, in TOS, yeah, Chapel and Spock do not end up together. Yeah, there's the
Right.
history with her and Corby, but like this one, um, I was thinking, well, maybe it'll be a little bit like different, and there might be like a happy ending between uh Chapel and Spock, but no.
Or at least like a little bit longer of a relationship. Like they could still have things not work out, but not be so quick to end things and not end things maybe as cold as they did because obviously we don't see that ending in TOS, I don't think.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it was just the way they made her so cold in the way in which she ends things with Spock and is just so infatuated with Corby so quickly. Because to me, Chapel never felt like a character who would become so infatuated so quickly with somebody. I mean, with Spock, it was one of those like, okay, yeah, she kind of maybe has a little bit of a thing for him, but it was nothing like she was just head over heels right away,
Hmm.
right? And you would have to assume that there was enough built up over 3 months that it would have signified a very fast infatuation on Chapel and Darby's part
Hmm.
with each other.
Hmm.
So she just never seemed like somebody who would just was just so quick to jump in with somebody like that.
Yeah, which makes you think, now I'm giving it her the benefit of the doubt, right? Like maybe she's in a vulnerable space and going off the rebound with Spock. But my first like instinct is like, oh, well, that was really shallow, so
Yeah.
um but but I don't but that's just like that's because I'm identifying with Spock, right? In
Yeah.
that circumstance, right? And go, oh, that was really shallow, for you to do that.
Yeah, I mean the way the episode was written, the way they have Chapel in this, it kind of makes her out to be the bad guy,
Hmm.
right? In this whole thing, it's taken. I feel like this episode is very much taken from a Spock centric. Like he's the one who's been the most hurt. He's the one you should feel sorry for. Chapel's the bad guy. Uh, all that kind of stuff. Especially because this episode does have a huge twist in it, right?
Yeah, you mean like at the end,
No,
at the
not
end
at
with
the
the
end. Like when we go from Chapel bringing Darby on board, and then all of a sudden Spock wakes up and everything's different. Now she's next to him, and it's their
oh yeah,
wedding day, or they're getting
yeah.
ready for their wedding, and everything's changed. And I'm thinking to myself, hang on a second. Either he was dreaming that she did that because he is nervous about her return, or this whole wedding thing is a ruse and this is not the reality that we came from.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Like
I
that kind of the flip of the switch, right?
that yeah, that the wedding planner orchestrated, which was great.
That was a big twist in my eyes.
Yeah. Um I thought it was perfect to kind of explore that. And when Corby comes into Spock's, I think, quarters and says, "Hey, this is not supposed to be happening, and Christine's with me, by the way," and blah blah blah, and then Spock punches him. That was great.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And then that's when Spock learns about the really deep emotion and how that triggers people to snap out of the false reality that they're
Hmm.
in and this the I don't want to say spell, but the thing that's been put on them by the quote unquote wedding planner that we don't know his name. And that snaps them out of that reality, right? So now it
Yeah,
becomes Spock and Dr. Corby who are the only two people who really know the what is really supposed to be happening minus the wedding planner.
that's right. And that deep emotion, um, ability to snap out of it, like only works with Spock and Dr. Corby and Christine. So when Spock is uh, reciting his vows to Christine, then she's able to come out of the trance.
Oh, okay. What did you think about Spock's vows that he said? What were your thoughts behind his words?
Yeah, I thought they were beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to connect it to um, what Corby was thinking, because I couldn't tell right away
Was
if
it Corby or what the dog was thinking?
right, yeah, what the dog was thinking. If if the vows were all of Spock's creation. I remember Corby walking in to his room, and Corby was trying to delete his vows, I think, on his tablet, right? On Spock's tablet. Corby was
I
trying to
think he
delete the
did
vows.
delete them, didn't he?
Did delete them?
Didn't yeah, I thought he
Oh,
said
maybe
that
did.
they had been deleted or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
So I couldn't recall. I have to see it again if the vows were all of Spock's like ideas, or this was something that he had gotten from Corby, because earlier in the episode, Corby was talking about when they were climbing the mountain, when Corby and Christine were climbing the mountain, and they were talking about the sun, the moon, and the stars. I think that's the first time you hear that was in the bar, like in Corby's talk. One of them, Corby or Christine, was talking about that. So that was that part that got me a little bit confused about, okay, where's the origin of these vows coming from? And then they throughout this episode too, they were referencing Pablo Neruda. That's the poet. That's the Chilean like poet. And and if those words from Spock were coming from some of Pablo Neruda's works. So, anyways, all of those thoughts were going through my mind. The vows themselves were this just a very very beautiful piece of prose that I would just love to listen to again because it was just mm, so eloquent and simple.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought the vows were incredible by Spock, whether they were written by him or inspired by Dr. Korby
Hmm.
or whatever, right? Uh, it's- I want to go back now that you mentioned it. I want to go back to that scene in it's not, they don't call it 10 forward, but basically in the bar, right? In the lounge
Mm.
area.
Yeah,
And Christine and Corby are sitting there and everybody's sitting around. A bunch of the crew are sitting around. They're all talking and asking about, you know, the trip and all this stuff. And Spock walks in late in uniform. Everybody else is dressed in their civvies and they're hanging out and having a good time. And Spock walks in and awkwardly, just in time to hear Christine talk about basically how she fell in love with or how she fell for Dr. Corby. That's three very, very awkward scenes that I saw in this episode for Spock. One being the transporter when they first show up, one being in the room where she returns, well, tries to return the book that he got her as a gift, and the third one now in the lounge. And every time I'm like, oh, Spock, like he now has feelings for and wants so badly to be with someone who basically has become unattainable now, right? Someone
yeah,
who doesn't have the interest in him that he has in her. And the
yeah,
rejection over and over and over again. And I think the way they did it really, really makes your heart just break for Spock. And the third time being in the lounge in the bar area where they're telling the story and the way they're goo goo gaga, over each other. And Spock's just like, mm-hmm. And then he just turns and walks out. And
yeah.
I can only imagine that feeling for someone who's only half human and isn't supposed to
Hmm.
is supposed to suppress his emotions, the feelings he would have had leaving that bar and that really long, awkward walk back to his quarters going, well, that sucked. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, oh my
yeah.
gosh.
You feel awful for him, right?
Yes.
You feel
And it
awful
makes
for him.
me hate Nurse Chapel even more in this episode. I don't hate the character overall. I just completely dislike. And it's like she sees Spock standing there and then she still continues to go on. I'm like, how many times you going to drive a knife into this dude's heart, man?
Yeah, you feel awful,
You
you
do.
know.
You really, really, really do.
And so when they were talking about this is what was going through my mind when they were talking about that climb up on the mountain and elsewhere in the episode, I think Roger Corby is talking about Christine and like, oh, she was such a good like fellow, and after a short amount of time, she was helping direct the other fellows too, or direct the dig. Um, what I was thinking about was in Hegemony when Spock, again, I've said it like before, but when Spock is traveling to the other starship, the destroyed starship, like in his EV suit, like by himself, um dragging those rockets, and because he's the only one he can do it, and like he's hoping for a chance to be able to like help Christine off that ship
Yeah,
and get her. But like he's just the type of guy, it's like he's gonna go do it. He's gonna go save the person, and he's gonna come back. He's not gonna talk about it. He's not
yeah,
gonna brag, right? He's just gonna do it. He's gonna make it happen, and he's not gonna make um a big deal about it when he comes back,
right.
you know?
Uh, I want to make sure that we mention this, and I know this is a slight change of topic
Hmm.
here. We, for the first time in this episode, meet Lieutenant Ortega's brother,
Yeah.
Beto or Beto Ortegas, right? The younger brother of Lieutenant Ortegas. And it's interesting because his presence we see, I believe it's the first scene she appears in, I think, where she's in that what looks kind of like a gymnasium and
Yeah.
she's boxing with him and they're going at it. And at first you don't know it's his brother, her brother, right? You just think, oh, well, this guy she's fighting or whatever. But you begin to see there's some playfulness there, but I think this is also part of Ortega's continuing to deal with her anger and her emotions following being captured by the Gorn. Because there's another scene, I believe, later in this episode, right, where she goes back to the gym by herself and she's punching the bag by herself. And you
Yeah.
can see that she has a lot of built up PTSD from being captured and literally almost dying. Like, I remember watching Hegemony Part II, again, just I watched it for the second time yesterday and the first time on Thursday when it came out, thinking to myself, uh, as the episode's going on, the first time I'm watching it, thinking to myself, Ortegas, they really have a chance here that they could kill Ortegas off. Like they could literally axe the main helmsman of this ship. And back in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but it's Star Trek. Nobody really dies, right? But they could have, if they wanted to, they could have absolutely killed Ortegas, and it would have been completely believable because she was bleeding out in that Gorn fighter. And some people I've heard some people mention that like, well, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that all that happened. Like she shouldn't have survived. They shouldn't have survived. How'd they get off that ship without being overrun by the Gorn? Blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, though, right? I mean, it's real interesting that they bring him in, and you're beginning to see the side of Ortegas come out where you're like, oh boy, and rightfully so, that whole thing with the Gorn really messed her up.
Yeah, I think she's in a very fragile mental state. It's it's good that her brother was there to provide that support, but yeah, she's definitely in a fragile mental state, dealing with her very, very, very close near miss.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't think she was. I thought she was going to die in Hegemony.
I thought so.
Yeah,
I thought that there was a real chance they were going to. Not, as the episode's going on, I'm thinking to myself, they're not going to kill Ortegas off, are they? They're not. I love Ortega. I think she's a great character. She's a hell of a pilot, obviously. She's a smart aleck in all the best ways possible. And I'm like, they're not going to kill her off, right? Right? They're not going to do it, are they? Are they? Like these all these thoughts as the episode's going on, and then you see she's okay at the end. You're like, okay, thank God they didn't kill her off, because you just
yeah,
never know, man. You never know with these shows, especially nowadays. I see so many shows nowadays outside of Star Trek who have no problem just axing a main character randomly, and you're like, what the heck? They just killed a main character off. What the heck?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was. Um, I was surprised that she survived. So there were these looks that Mbenga and Leon were giving each other, like when they were helping Ortega. But in Hegemony, like part one, there was a moment where Captain Pike, this is after they do the free fall drop in the shuttle, and Erica's the one to fly it out. And Captain Pike says, Erica, you were born to do this. Right. And so I was thinking about like that when Ortega was flying the Gorn ship, because like I think the last thing Ortega says before she passes out in Hegemony Part II, she says, my name is Erica Ortega and I fly the ship. And
Yeah.
so I thought that was going to be like her final words, actually,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I was connecting it. Yeah.
Which would have been
Yeah.
a great way, which would have been a great last words to have if they
Hmm.
were going to kill her off.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
You bring that up, and that reminds me when I was watching Hegemony Part II for the first time,
hmm
and she said that, I am like immediately in my brain thought to myself,
Yeah.
"Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." Did you not think of Princess Bride? Like when she said, "My name is Eric Ortegas, and I fly the
Ah,
ship," and I'm like, "This is Inigo Montoya."
I did think of that. I thought of that, and I thought of Avengers Endgame, where it says, I am Iron Man.
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah. Right before is that right
Hmm.
before he does the snap?
Yeah. Right
Right?
before he does a
Yeah,
snap.
yeah.
Um,
See, we here on the Random Redshirt podcast, folks, we're what you would like to call nerd cultured, where everything that other nerd
Excellent.
stuff pops in our mind and reminds us of other moments. It's just that's just the way it is. It's just
It's all
how our brains
connected.
operate. Our brains
Yeah.
operate so much on the same wavelength, Chris. It's kind of scary.
Indeed. Indeed, it
But
is.
yeah, no, I thought that was really good. Um, I do also think it's important to point out that in the real timeline, not the one that they're snapped into
Hmm.
by the wedding planner, but in the real timeline, we know that the Enterprise is kind of supposedly going to be the ones that host this centennial celebration of the Federation's founding, which
Yeah.
is the 100th anniversary of the Federation's founding in 2161. To me, this is a direct callback to Enterprise. Even though we
Yeah.
hate the finale and the way in which it was done, we do know that because of the finale that Archer was there and the crew of the Enterprise were there to watch the birth of the Federation. So to me, the centennial celebration of the Federation is a an homage and a callback to Enterprise, which I love.
I agree. I think it was really, really great to connect it to that. We've got,
Yes.
you know, it's connected here. They're making the reference to Enterprise. And then I also thought you had this great opportunity for Pike at the end after the spell has been lifted, to make this very funny and awkward kind of acknowledgement and speech regarding Centennial Day, which was
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Did you happen to notice an Easter egg in this episode? The cup that Picard loves to drink his tea Earl Grey hot out of makes an appearance in the back, very briefly in the background. I saw this in an image online and I
Oh.
had to go back and look. On the table
Oh.
behind some Federation coffee cups, there is the exact same style
Hmm.
cup that Picard uses in TNG, which I thought
Oh,
was an
that's cool.
awesome, tiny little like blurry Easter egg in this episode.
Oh, that's cool that they did that. I did not notice that until you said it, so that makes me happy. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. There's
That's
another
cool.
Easter egg too in the opening scene where Spock and Lon are dancing. If you
Hmm.
look up in the background of all the ships up in space around, I believe this is Is this Jupiter Station? Where Starbase One? I think it's Jupiter. What becomes Jupiter Station, or right? Starbase One, and they're dancing around. You look in the
Yeah.
ships up above. One of them is the same class starship as Discovery.
Oh, okay.
It's if
Oh, that's
you have to
cool.
look really carefully.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't realize these things until I was doing some reading about episode two prior to our recording here, and I saw some of these images, and I was like, I got to throw these in the notes so Chris can see them because I didn't notice them
Oh.
first either. But now my understanding is there's also another ship up there that's supposed to be the same class as the USS Glenn, which was destroyed in Discovery season one's episode "Context is for Kings."
Gotcha.
But the Crossfield class starship, which I believe is what Discovery is supposed to be one of the
Okay.
ships up in orbit there. So just some kind of
Oh,
interesting
yeah. Yeah.
little Easter egg nuggets. And this is not the first time Strange New Worlds has done this, by the way. They have, I think, been pretty consistent with throwing Easter eggs in their episodes, which I love, by the way.
I like that. That's pretty cool. Well, that
Yeah.
means I mean, they love the source material, so they love putting
Yes.
the Easter eggs in there. That's excellent.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you something about Strange New Worlds. because to me, and we've talked about this before, that Strange New Worlds, for me, Strange New Worlds is the best of the new Trek.
Hmm.
I like it better than the first two seasons of Picard. Picard season three is amazing, so it's kind of hard to top. But
Hmm.
for me, Strange New Worlds really. Uh, so we talked about how Picard season three is a love letter to TNG.
Yeah.
To me, Strange New Worlds is a love letter to TOS as well as the rest of Star Trek because of the things like the Easter eggs and stuff, paying the homages to series like Enterprise and so forth. What are your thoughts? Like, how do you see Strange New Worlds in the light of the Star Trek universe?
Yeah, in a way, that's a really good perspective and point that you make. In a way, it is like this great um homage and acknowledgement and a love letter to the original series. I mean, for example, we see in this one, just a minor example, but in its aesthetic, but it is a acknowledgement and a great acknowledgement to Toss as we see the unveiling of the green captain's like crossover like uniform that Pike
Yes.
is wearing, right? We
Yes.
got that,
Yes.
and you're like, wow, okay, they completely, connect that to Toss and
Yeah.
all that awesomeness, and and here when they're connecting it, um, when they're connecting the wedding planner and the bartender to Trelane, that is absolutely acknowledging and connecting it and making like a tribute to Toss. So it
Yeah.
absolutely is, and they've done it throughout each season, and like particularly with um, a qual Balance of Terror, the homage to Balance of Terror,
Yeah. Which we
with
love that
Kirk.
episode. I
Yeah,
remember talking about that. Yeah.
yeah, with Kirk coming in, and it's just a flip, you know, it's just kind of a flip of that idea with Pike, the one being captain.
Yeah.
Um, so it is very much connected so strongly to Toss in a wonderful
Yeah.
way.
Okay. There's a couple other things that I wanted to mention here.
Yeah.
Uh, so I didn't forget. So the first one is we talked about this yesterday when we were talking about Hegemony Part II, where we learned something else about this young Scotty that we didn't know yet. And that, if you remember, there's a scene at the bar at the end, or not the end, where they're doing like the quote unquote bachelor party for Spock.
Mm,
And Scotty says something to the effect of about the alcohol. He hasn't developed a taste for it, or he doesn't like drinking it yet, even though we know the real Scotty likes to drink a lot. Did you notice that and how
yeah.
it's a stark contrast to the older version of himself?
Yep. I like it. I like that a lot. Because Scotty
Yeah.
doesn't Scotty like Scotch? He likes,
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
he likes
man
he
likes
but
Scotch.
he
Yeah.
likes if you remember in the episode Relics, right, where Scotty comes on board the Enterprise and he goes into the holodeck and recreates the old Enterprise because that's where he feels at home
Yeah.
with. And he talks about how the whole synthale stuff you get out of the replicators
Ah,
is awful, right?
yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
real alcohol.
Yeah. Yep.
Has a
Yep.
different taste to him. So we know he likes to drink the real stuff and likes alcohol, but this younger Scotty has not gotten to that point yet. So I like that
Yeah.
little thing they threw in there.
Me too. Like they had some Saurian brandy at the bachelor party. That
Yep.
was great.
Yeah, well, we know that is a preferred drink of Captain Kirk too, right? We know Kirk's affinity for Saurian brandy, especially in TOS,
We
uh,
absolutely do.
for
Yeah.
sure. Also, now we mentioned that this is an homage or a love letter to TOS. Yes, there are a lot of differences from this versus TOS. We know that. We're kind of considering this on a little bit of a different timeline than the Prime universe or whatever you want to call it. But this also has had throwbacks and callbacks to the original series, the original animated series of Star Trek. For example, the three-armed bartender alien that we meet in the show towards the end, she is a
Oh,
female Idosian, which is the same race as Arex or Arex, however you say the name, from the animated series. They all,
the original animated
the
series?
original animated series,
Okay.
I believe my understanding is they also have appeared in Lower Decks and in Prodigy.
Okay.
But this is the first time, again, reading, I think it was Screen Rant I was reading this on, where they had
Yeah.
mentioned this is the first time this race has been portrayed in live action.
Okay. I love that they're doing that. I didn't not
Yeah.
realize that, but I do really because I know that the original animated series had the voice acting from William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and yeah,
Yeah,
Christopher
the
Plummer. Yeah,
original the
yeah,
original series actors were the voices in those shows for their characters.
yeah.
Yeah, which
Just
is
great.
amazing. Yeah. So I just
Wow.
like that in an episode like this where it's like a kind of a romantic or a rom-com as they say type of episode where there's a love triangle and there's drama and there's all this stuff. They still found ways to put in Easter eggs and throw in little things that I missed the first go around when I watched it. And honestly, I didn't even realize some of this stuff until I read it. I think it was off of Screen Rant. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, crap. Let me go back and look. Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it
And
does.
so I think it's awesome that they're doing that.
Um, I want to talk about just a little bit. I'm glad they had Captain Battelle in here too, right? Captain Battelle and Pike were there. So
Yeah.
she's been there the last like 3 months recovering with Pike. They've obviously like grown closer and are really really close and attached. And I think right
Yeah.
now she's contemplating which command she wants, which starship she wants to get back. And
Yeah.
I thought that was like a great a great moment for them. And I think she teases him. She's like, yeah. Um, like, where are we gonna put you? Like when you're on my ship, like I guess you'll be in my quarters, right? So I
Yeah.
thought that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. That exchange is really sweet. And I like it quite a bit. Um, I was chatting with somebody during the premiere of our Hegemony Part II review, and we were chatting, and one of the things I mentioned was, I'm really, really enjoying the relationship they're building between
Hmm.
Battelle and Pike. And Pike mentioned in this scene you brought up, which I'm glad you did because I wanted to talk about that, but then I was talking and ranting about my dislike for Chapel this episode, rightfully so, I think. Uh, I like the interaction, and I like that Pike says, I think something to the effect of, I've been getting used to you being here, and I'm not ready to let you go yet. I'm
Yeah.
still not ready to let you go. And I like that. And so I was chatting with one of our viewers, and I mentioned that, the original series in the cage, because we talked about that as well during Hegemony Part Two, that uh Pike is unattached and he has no family in the cage.
Yeah.
So that means that unless they're gonna change things up, although they didn't do that with the Pike or with the Spock and Chapel relationship, at least for now, um, that Battelle and Pike are not going to last. The relationship's not going to last again
Yeah.
unless they go in a different direction. Which honestly, I'm kind of hoping they do because we both like Battelle quite a bit. I know you really like her.
Yeah.
Um, they're not going to last, Chris, and that makes me uneasy because I really like what we have going here with between the two of them.
Yeah. Agree. I hope they last and I hope it changes things. I hope they're able to find some like mechanism where his future is altered actually,
Yeah.
where he's not like critically injured like he is. Um and it makes me think about like what is going to happen. Is he actually going to go to Talos and what's that going to be like? Because if they end up going to Talos, that sets in motion like a whole bunch of other things that are going to happen once they go to Talos, and then what's going to happen with Captain Pike? How's he going to make it out of this? Um, so I'm really hoping it ends differently, and then
Yeah.
they find a way to have like Pike and Battelle together. Just me being like I'm hoping for that happy ending between them.
I am too right now, but here's my question for you. Do you think at the culmination of the series of Strange New Worlds, the end of season 5, when the show's over and there's nothing left, would you be satisfied with an alternate ending where Pike does not end up the way he does in TOS and does not end up going to Talos and all of those things? Or do you think would you be dissatisfied with the ending if it was different than the way in which we know Pike and TOS, because they will have then taken a complete, they will have had a big divergence from what we know in the prime timeline. Because think about it, if Pike doesn't get injured, doesn't go to Talos, all those things, and end up in the chair, does Kirk then take over the Enterprise? And that sets in motion a whole other gambit of things where Kirk does not become the captain that we know he's supposed to become. So my question again for you, Chris, is would you be satisfied with Pike having a different path in the future and not having the accident and being disfigured, and therefore allowing Kirk to then become captain of the Enterprise and everything set in motion? Or would you be okay with a completely different course for Pike? I, for me personally, right now, I would say I'm okay with Pike having a completely different course and Kirk becoming captain of the Enterprise. But I think my mind might be changed once we get there. And if that were to happen, I might go, maybe I don't like this anymore because I like the way things were. Not that I like Pike being disfigured, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, I do.
I said the word like way too many times in that sentence, but I don't know. Give me your thoughts
That's a
on and that question.
that's a very I think that's a great point. The Kirk's going to get like he's going to get command of the Enterprise no matter what. Like if
Is he?
what
Is he? I mean,
true.
you'd
Yeah,
think,
is he? Yeah.
but
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean you could have Pike get promoted. You could have like Pike resign or go out of retire, Pike retire. It could be a few different ways that Pike could leave the command of the Enterprise and leave a legacy for Kirk to come in. But I will say one thing though, like or maybe a few things. The tragedy of Pike in Toss is also a very important in terms of how we come to understand Spock's character. Because in the Menagerie,
yeah.
I think the
Part one and two.
Menagerie,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, like we learn about Spock is Spock will do everything for like someone that is close to him, right? Spock is going to he's he's going to disobey orders. He's going to do he's not going to put people in harm, but he's going to do everything that he can to help this man, Pike.
Yeah. And he
Um
does that for Kirk too. So you're
he
100% right
does
on
that
that.
with
Yeah.
Kirk, right? Yeah. Yeah. But it is very critical to what we learn about Spock. And um as far as we know, as far as that we're aware of is um Spock's done this with Pike and Spock has done it with Kirk. Um, so it's a reason this causes Spock to do this, right? So Spock needs, you know, Spock kind of needs a reason to do what he does, and Pike's tragedy, and his helplessness, and Spock, helping him or that opportunity to help him, um, helps Spock develop like he does. If Pike were to have a um more calm exit, or peaceful exit where he just finds a way to like leave or retire or get promoted or find a way to to get with Patel. Spock might not have that opportunity to kind of do that
Yeah.
and learn that.
There'd be big fallout, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there'd be a big fallout with other characters, right? Because it would change the way they develop. It
Mhm.
would change the course of history for many of them.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of pose that question is obviously you and I both like Patel. We want to see this relationship continue. I think a lot of people do, honestly. I haven't heard anything bad about Captain Patel and her and Pike together. Um, at the same time, we know that in the cage, we know that in this false reality that's created by the aliens on the planet for Pike,
Hmm.
he has a wife, right? He's got a family. And so I think they see into his mind his kind of longing for that. There could be a way to still have Pike stay with Battelle and face the future he faces, because just because we see Pike in the chair and disfigured in TOS doesn't mean that he couldn't still have Battelle as a wife, back somewhere else. And we see him, but they don't elaborate on anything
Yeah.
like family or anything. So it is possible he could still meet his future the way we know it should happen and still have Battelle. I think there's a way they could do that.
Yeah.
Because just because you don't see Captain Battelle in TOS doesn't mean she couldn't be a part of his life still and them have a relationship or even be married for that matter in this future, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's opportunities, but I think to myself now, like, yes, I want him and Battelle to stay together, but at the same time, I think he does need to meet the fate that is waiting for him, because that's going to set the wheels in motion for so much else of what we have come to know in the Star Trek universe.
Would you feel disappointed if at the end of season 5 they they don't end the season with him meeting some kind of fate? So like for instance, like it's just um the end is like he's still in command of the Enterprise, and there's some sort of like great concluding episode, and but you leave the series just like not seeing that fate where it's they just didn't have that as an episode. How would you feel? Would you feel like okay, disappointed, ambivalent?
I don't know what ambivalent means, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with I think I would be disappointed.
Hmm.
And the reason why is because here's what I think is going to happen. What I think is going to happen at the end of Strange New Worlds is in the finale, Pike's going to be off the Enterprise, either disfigured or otherwise, depending on how they want to take that. Uh, Kirk is going to take command of the Enterprise at in the last episode, towards like the very end of the episode. It's going to end with Kirk being now in command, and you have Spock there, and whether Ortegas and Lon and some of these other characters that are not part of TOS are still there, I don't know. But I
Yeah.
think Kirk's going to take command of the Enterprise, and then the show's going to end, and that's going to set up them to have an opportunity to have a new show with Kirk again. Now, maybe not exactly like TOS, but it keeps the door open for them to do something with Kirk again.
Yeah.
I don't think they should, because that's already been done. But if they did that where they end and now Kirk's in command of the Enterprise, that would be sort of their transition into what will become TOS, right? That's how I think it's going to end. If they do it the way they did in Star Wars, with the way Rogue One ends, and it seamlessly transitions into the first scene of A New Hope, I think that would make sense.
Okay.
And I think it would keep things kind of on the straight and narrow from a fan perspective and from a somewhat of a timeline perspective. I think that would keep fans happy. If it's something where they completely veer off and now this is some Wild West version of Star Trek that's so far off from canon, I think fans would be pissed and it'd be a really bad ending. I don't think they want to end it that way, personally. That's just me spitballing out loud. I don't know for sure. Um,
That's a
but
great
okay,
point though. Yeah, that's a great point.
that's just my envisioning them and how I think they're going to end it, but
Mhm.
I'm could be completely wrong, because if Strange New Worlds has definitely kept us guessing and kept us on our toes throughout the first 2 seasons plus that we've had so far.
Mhm.
Okay, now let's get to the end of this episode, Chris, of Wedding Bell Blues, because we see people start to wake up from this amnesia spell, whatever that the wedding planner has put on. And people realize that, okay, what are we doing here after uh, Chapel has realized that she's not supposed to marry Spock and everything's gone awry and Darby's a dog and he's being held on a leash by Kirk's brother. Um, And the wedding planner is standing there and he's kind of shaken up a little bit because things have gone awry and it's not what he was trying to make happen, right? And then we hear this voice This voice that sounds all too familiar.
Yeah, that's right. Which was great. I mean, this ends similar to the Toss episode where the parents come in for Trelane and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, it's time to end. You shouldn't be playing so much. You need to like release these humans." And the voice connects because I think there was a lot of speculation. Um, is is Trelane Q? AQ? Is he
Yeah.
AQ? So I think this will further fuel it, right? Or maybe confirm it.
Well, that's the thing, though. Did they confirm it? Because there was no mention of him being a Q, really, right? The reason why we can think that he's Q is because there's a mention that he's still a young one, right? He's only 8,000 years old. So he's
Mhm.
like basically a baby, not a toddler, but like a young child. And oh, by the way, it's whose voice?
Yeah,
It's John Delancey's voice.
yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah,
mean, John Delancey's voice is incredibly distinct. There's no denying that was John Delancey. And John Delancey has only ever played one character in Star Trek, and that was Q.
yeah.
So you hear John Delancey's voice, you'd hear him in like you mentioned what like how they do it in TOS with this fatherly, parent coming to get his son playing in the sandbox saying it's time to go, and he's like, "But dad, I'm having fun," and this, that, and the other. So all of these things combined make you think, yeah, they're without saying it, they're kind of confirming that Traylan's the Traylan is a Q
Yeah.
without saying it. And it's almost like they're kind of confirming it, but they're not actually saying it because they don't say it.
Yeah. Because you don't actually meet Q, John Delancey's
Right.
version of Q until TNG. Right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Now there is a reference here that Screen Rant had where they mentioned that maybe he could be Q Jr. on a journey with his dad, as suggested by Captain Janeway during the events of Q2, which is a Voyager episode.
Mm.
So maybe that's another possibility. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But regardless, however you want to, you can interpret this in a couple different ways with who Traylon is, whether he's a Q or not a Q. And honestly, the way they wrote it still, I think, somewhat open ended and leaving it open to interpretation allows it to fit a variety of different viewpoints.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, it ends very similarly to the Squire of Gothos,
Yeah.
which is totally what their intent was, which was great.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think now, of course, this is not the same as the Balance of Terror they did, where you could literally watch it screen next to each other and it's
mhm,
almost
mhm.
a perfect shot for shot. But do you kind of feel like they took the Squire of Gothas episode and used that as their baseline for writing this one?
Much of it. Yeah,
A
much of it.
lot of
Particularly,
carryover, I think, right?
yeah, yeah, particularly like the personality of Trelane. And then
Yeah.
um Trelane is someone like that enjoys lavishness. Like so the Squire of Gothos, I think he likes everyone in the nice formal wear and dresses, and so he likes those lavish like opportunities.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
yeah,
Okay, I want to. I have a question that popped in my mind that I want to ask you
yeah.
here as we wrap up our episode and our review of Strange New Worlds Wedding Bell Blues. And that is, we have seen, because of the amount of references to TOS, and rightfully so, because we're in that era, and the number of times now that we have seen them take TOS episodes and either almost frame by frame remake them in a sense, or pull heavily from an episode like this in the Squire of Gothas. Is there a TOS episode or episodes that you would love to see them do something similar, and how they've taken other episodes between now and the end of the series? that would be either fun or would be really great. And it doesn't have to be the exact balance of terror frame by frame thing. It could be something like this where the episode's used as a reference point to build out a similar story. Is there one or multiple episodes that you would love to see them do from that standpoint?
One, just thinking about lighter fare, trouble with tribbles. Didn't someone
Yeah.
mention a tribble? I think in one of these recent episodes we've watched, there was like a mention of a tribble somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
quite remember.
Was it in Hegemony that they mentioned
Maybe
something about a tribble? It might have
might be.
been.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see like uh some tribbles. Let's see what they do with the tribbles.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like those porgs. Were they porgs in Star Trek?
Yeah.
Not
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Star
Yeah. The
Wars.
porgs. Yeah.
The porgs. Yeah.
That's the
Just
other
another.
white meat.
Yeah, the other.
Or wait, maybe that's the tribbles. Maybe the porgs are the other white meat. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you could totally have some more like shenanigans with the tribbles. That'd be fun. So that's thinking of a like something that they could have for fun on the light side of it. I
Yeah.
think should be great. Should be great to do. How about you?
Uh, so this is not on the light side, but you know my affinity for the episode Let That Be Your Last
Mm-hmm.
Battlefield.
Yeah.
I would love to see something similar to that, or maybe even introduce that species in an episode in some way. In Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, it's evident that the crew of the Enterprise does not know about this species or knows very little about them. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's the first time they've ever met them or not. You would have to assume it is because by the time they get the two aliens back to their homeworld, they're all gone.
Mm-hmm.
So when would they have had an opportunity to meet them? And it looks like their homeworld's been devastated for a long, long time. So maybe there's not really a chance to bring them in,
Mm-hmm.
but the that episode, something along those lines, I think would be great from a dramatic storytelling perspective. I think would be a lot of I don't say fun's not the right word, but I think it would be a great callback to that. I would love to see. Okay, this is because I have a big affinity for Enterprise.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Jonathan Archer descendant in this era. And it wouldn't even have to be that far because we're talking, okay, so they're celebrating the Centennial. It's 100 years. Archer is a captain at the time when they sign or no, he's an admiral maybe at the time when they actually sign the
Mm-hmm.
charter. I I would love to see like a grandchild of Jonathan Archer or a descendant of one of the original Enterprise crew members from the NX-01.
That would be really cool. That would be really, really
Because think
cool.
about it, this is pre TOS Kirk and Spock, right? So it's very close. We're like within a couple of years of that, right?
Hmm.
But it's technically pre that. So I think you have enough period of time there where you could call back to Enterprise for things, and it wouldn't be a far stretch at all because you're close enough in the
Yeah.
timeline, right? That, and then I would love to see an episode where there's some either callbacks to or we get to see the falling out from the Romulan Earth Wars that we never got because Enterprise was canceled.
That would be cool.
So there is so much here they could play with. And while I love the creativity, I want to see some more of that kind of stuff, like callbacks to Enterprise or continual references or building off of other TOS episodes, because I think there's a lot you could do.
Do you think this just popped in my mind. Do you think we'll see any of Section 31
Mm.
throughout Strange New Worlds? I in my mind I'm thinking no, but there might be a place for Section 31 to come in here or there.
You know, I had been thinking about that previously, and I'm glad you brought it up because we have been doing our Section 31 Spotlight series. And if you have not checked it out, by the
Hmm.
way, please go do so. We have a number of Section 31 specific episodes out, all of which so far are Enterprise or D Space Nine and Enterprise episodes that
Yeah.
we've reviewed and talked about and discussed the inner workings of Section 31 and the ethics and the morals behind it. It's a fantastic series so far. Please go check it out. Everywhere you get your podcasts and right here on the YouTube channel. But I would say that there's a lot of opportunity to do that because there was no Section 31 in TOS. but there
Yeah.
was an Enterprise. Enterprise
Yeah.
comes before TOS. So we know Section 31 exists. It hasn't been referenced yet, but how cool would that be to have a Section 31 agent come aboard Pike's Enterprise?
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh. I just thought of this. What if, how cool would it be if La'an or Ortegas were Section 31 agents? Or not, maybe not agents, but they had been asked to do things for Section 31 in the past, kind of like Reed. Now, I know it would be a little bit of a recycling of that from Enterprise,
Yeah.
but to have a crew member on board, and to me, of all the people on board Pike's Enterprise that would be the most susceptible to that and most believable, it's Lon,
Yeah.
given what she's been through. Dude, they could make a Section 31. Oh my gosh, they could make a Section 31. They could make a Section 31 episode that ties in with trying to find out the Gorn homeworld
Yeah.
and a recon mission into the Gorn homeworld that was more exploration and recon, like we talked about during Hegemony Part II. Oh gosh, we need to talk.
That
We need to call Paramount and
that's
via CBS and do it.
that would completely be like I think an awesome thing to watch and a viable, you could totally see a mission like that. That
Yeah,
the Section
especially because
31
the
mission.
Gorn have supposedly gone into
Hmm.
sleepy mode,
Yeah.
right? It would be perfect. Somebody on board the Enterprise leaves for some. Let's say they're taking personal time off the Enterprise, like Lon, and instead of going off and vacationing or whatever, they're off on a Section 31 mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that could be really, and it's tied to trying to get as much information about the Gorn homeworld as possible and attempting to figure out a way to kill the Gorn off once and for all,
Yeah.
to make them not a threat anymore.
Yeah.
That's
They could
totally
totally do
believable,
that.
right? And
Totally believable.
this
Yeah.
could be like a late season 4 episode, so as not to be too close to what we just went through.
Yep. Yep.
Dude, see, that's all we need. They just need to hire us to do this, and we'll come up with some great ideas. But yeah, man, this was a nice little bit of a break from the action and intense drama of Hegemony Part One and Two. Although we had some very awkward and intense drama between Spock and Chapel and Dr. Korby, so maybe we didn't get as big of a break as we thought we needed.
Yeah. Not as big. Yeah, but that's okay. And not as big as a break. But I think my view of Nurse Chapel will be now changed, like going on, like from,
Really? Is she still
yeah.
going to be your favorite character? Or is that going to change now?
Man,
It's okay if it is. I
yeah,
won't I won't think less of you for that. I
it
promise.
it may change. We'll
Ooh,
see. You know, that was,
yeah.
yeah,
Chris is like, how dare she mess with my kind, the Vulcans? How dare she? Well, I mean, I
yeah,
know I know that if memory serves me correctly, and I hope it does, because this is kind of an important thing. Spock is your favorite character in all of Star Trek, right?
yeah. It's both Spock and Captain Picard are kind of parallel
Okay.
to each other, right?
Yeah, so she's messed with one of your favorite characters of all time.
Yeah, man, it hurts. It
Yes,
hurts.
it's
Like
personal.
in the heart.
Yes, it's personal, Chris. Come on. This is personal for you.
It
And
is.
right
Yeah.
for most Star Trek fans. I mean, I don't know anybody who's ever said, I don't care for Spock. Everybody likes Spock, right?
Yeah.
So this is very personal.
Yeah.
Um, I don't blame you if it does change your view on the character. I mean, obviously Jess Bush is an incredible actress
Yeah.
and she's played this part so well. It doesn't change the way how she is as an actress and how I think we view her as an actress. But yeah, I don't think you would be wrong at all for it changing your perception of the character.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like, I mean, now Spock is, it was already hard enough for him, right, to be amongst all of the mostly humans on the crew, and so now he'll build even stronger walls, right, to
Yeah.
protect himself.
And
Yeah.
but at the same time, you think about it, maybe that's kind of part of getting this younger Spock to where the Spock is that we have
Yeah.
come to know over time.
Yeah,
right?
it
Maybe
is.
that's part of building this character, even though this is a really hard way to do that.
Yeah. So you're right. Part of developing him.
Yeah, it is. But
Man.
all right, well, the first two episodes are in the books for season three of Strange New Worlds, and wow, I mean, I'm already just like this with the emotions of these first two episodes. I can't wait to see what else is coming the rest of this season. It's going to be incredible.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. It's
Yeah.
gonna be so much fun to see. And each one is so different. So I'm really curious on episode 3 on where it's gonna go. I
Yeah.
have no idea. So just really curious. Oh, and
Same.
what I love that is that like, we've talked about this before, but each one can be its own independent thing, which is great.
They're tied together, but they're independent, and I love
Yeah.
that. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. It's you have an opportunity to just focus on this story, but also know that these episodes are building off each other as well. And the biggest part is the character development continues through each of these episodes,
Yeah.
which I really like. So, for those of you who have made it thus far and have been watching and listening to this entire episode, first of all, thank you. But second of all, your reward for that is that we are pleased and happy to announce that next Sunday, at the time of this recording, we will be joined by the one and only director Dan Liu, who directed episode 3 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And we cannot wait to have him on. We're going to have him on as we discuss his episode. And it's going to be a blast having him back and hearing all of his thoughts and inputs as we talk about the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be fun. That'll be so much fun.
How cool is that? I
Yeah.
mean,
That's gonna be great.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you all so much. As always, we very much appreciate you watching and listening all over the globe and the interwebs, as always. Again, be sure to go onto the socials, check us out there, follow us there, subscribe, do all that fun stuff so you can be alerted for our next episode review. And we're going to continue this, to coin a phrase, trek through season 3 of Strange New Worlds. It's going to be a blast. We're also working in some upcoming celebrity guests that will join us as soon as we can nail down times and dates. And we're going to continue talking about the things that we love, Chris, because like we've said before, we need this, and we know that those of you watching and listening really love talking and discussing the same things that we do.
Absolutely. It's gonna be so much fun. Next week's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. Um, and just those of you that have been in Spock's position, similar to Wedding Bells Blues, we feel for you. And, and
We do.
it's gonna
Literally,
fly. Yeah.
from a Star Trek perspective, if you can see my hand, we literally feel for you
Mm.
right here in whichever side your heart is on, or whatever color blood runs through your veins. We do feel for you as well.
Yeah. Wonderful, my friend.
Much more to come. So,
Yeah.
anyways, all right. Well, thank you all so much as always. Take care, and we will catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.